beats are slamming. My beats are slamming from the rugged programming. My man Bob Marley, hey my man, I'm jamming. You can never touch my stamina while I'm ramming the hip hop crowd makes me raw.
How to on an intro on Ohm's laws. A lot of people out there be setting up their subs, anything with a dual voice coil, and if you plan on doing it yourself, here's a quick way to decipher ohms. Things like hooking up your system if you have two subs and they could be hooked up backwards. I'll be showing you what that looks like. Single sub with two coils. So right here I have a pair of 6x9s. I know they're not subs, but they're smaller than subs, so they're easier to show you in one single take, and they're not as loud as subs, so I don't be waking up neighbors. Right now I'm just playing tone of 41 hertz through these guys. They're both playing. See that and hear it. It's a low frequency, but it is playing. There are two different ways you can hook up either your single sub that has two voice coils. I have two subs with a single voice coil. You should know what those are depending on what's on the back of your speaker. If you don't know what it is, say you get a sub in a box already and you're not having direct access to the back of your speaker, you would need to pull the speaker out. Okay, so you have your two subs. Picture these as your two subs. We want to hook them up. We want to get the most sound out of it we can. Do it the right way, right? So there's two different ways to do that. There is a parallel way and there is a series way. Parallel, meaning you take the positive and negative off of each voice coil, kind of twisting into two wires together and shoving them in the amplifier as such, as I will show you with my meter here how that looks on a meter. Typically red will be positive, in this case it's positive, and then gray, black, whatever color wiring you have out there. These are not standard colors, so don't go by my colors. Just take, for example, this is your positive wire and this is your negative wire, and I just twisted them together. And when you measure them on a multimeter, and if you parallel wire two 4 ohm subs, what do you get? You should get 2 ohms. Anything you wire in parallel that has the same ohm load will just cut the ohm load in half. 1.8, 1.7, yeah, that's basically 2 ohms. If it's a whole ohm off, if you have a 4 ohm speaker and you're showing 5 ohms, 6 ohms, that's still good. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything too bad, but it does indicate something's wearing out inside the speaker. Two speakers, aka subwoofers, are within spec and they're at 4 ohms. So series wiring would mainly be used if you have two subwoofers that are 2 ohm or even 1 ohm. Really, like two speakers that are like 2 ohm or really low ohm load, and your amplifier can't handle anything under say 2 ohms, and you want to use these speakers, you have to wire them in a series, because that will bring the resistance up that the amplifier sees. When you lower the ohm load by parallel wiring them, the speakers will end up playing louder, and if you have more resistance, so if you have a higher ohm load, they will be a lower volume. But there's a give and take. With more volume comes more power, and more power comes more heat, and more heat can cause problems. So always make sure your wiring is up to stuff when it comes to that stuff. So for series wiring, you're going to be taking your 2 speaker wire leads, essentially connecting the positive. So you can take either positive, so you grab the positive wire here off of one speaker, and you grab the negative wire off of the other speaker, tie those two guys together, right? And if this is a permanent sort of way to do this, you would use like, crimp cap or solder you could use as well, and just kind of leave that guy like it is. That's all you do is twist one positive from one speaker to the negative from the other speaker. So when you do that, you're left with a positive from one speaker and a negative from another speaker. So you hook these up to your amplifier, and I'll even show you. We started off with a 4 ohm and a 4 ohm speaker, and the way I wired it, the ohm load should be what? So yeah, right there, 7.2, 7 ohms. Also, this can be a confusing matter for people hooking up their subs backwards. So if you say you have two subs and you accidentally hook them up backwards, say your wire colors are the same color and you get confused, or a lot of wire colors out there will have like a square wire and a round wire, so they'll be the same color but they'll have a different shape, and maybe you can't tell what shape it is, and then you end up thinking you're hooking up your subs right. And what can happen is you get a canceling out sort of effect. So when you go to play your subs will move and they'll create some sort of noise, but you'll know it doesn't sound right. You'll think there's something wrong because you can see the subs moving, which they're moving right here. I'll even turn it up. But what's happening is they're moving in opposite directions at the same exact time. And sound requires air. This is probably really loud. Oh, jeez. So what's happening is they're moving at the same time, but in opposite directions. And you get this push-pull effect. And it can be super confusing because you're like, okay, these subs are hitting, but they're not making any noise. Well, that's because they're backwards. It's because one's canceling out the other. They're actively playing, and say you hook them both up backwards, they would sound 10 times better than if you had one hooked up the right way and the other one hooked up backwards. Yeah, you always want to have them hooked up the right way, but with subs, you can get away with hooking them up backwards, and for the most part, won't have any problems. It's not recommended, so I don't recommend you to do that, but it is something you can get away with. Gonna simply fix the wiring and show you how just much of a difference that makes. But some of these things can be downright frustrating at some points. Alright, so we have them hooked up correctly, and we're just gonna play. Boom. Now you hear this kind of even bass, and if you were here, you can actually feel that that's just the noise from the frequencies. They're not vibrating the table as much because they're playing at the same time, and everything's copacetic and happy. Everything's happy. I am happy. But yeah, that's my video. I hope it helps. I hope you learned something. And if you have any questions, drop a comment. I will catch y'all later. Peace on. Thanks for watching.